The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It maketh me to lie down in green pastures. The most superintelligent power and force of love and creation leadeth me beside the still waters. It restoreth my soul. It leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for its name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent force and power of love and creation at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, the most high forever. What's happening? Benton here. And I should say, no matter what happens in this place, because what I am will only ever experience victory over this world of death and these games of lies. What I am is incapable of anything but a victory over this place. And I'm realizing as I was going live and remembering speaking to my mother, speaking to other people about these spiritual concepts, people's own claims around understanding spiritual concepts. What's the purpose of the spiritual concepts, folks? What is the reason for the existence of spiritual concepts in this place? What's the reason? It's to serve one of two masters. Every knee shall bow. Spiritual war. Stakes are never not high from that perspective, especially for those on the so-called other side. So while individuals within the so-called truth community, many of them are psychologically imprisoned and enslaved to a left-right paradigm, and other, oh, look, society has gone woke. Look, the economy is about to collapse. Oh, look at all of these things happening. Oh, look, blame the Democrats. Blame the Democrats. Anything but recognize the seriousness and the reality and the spiritual war itself. That if one is accepting their own birthright, if one is the same as what I am, one with the aforementioned force, that's my birthright. That's Benton's birthright in the context of this performance. And there's an entire delusory realm, this place, this world, the world of death and the game of lies, set up based on the inverse or the opposite of the proposition, the assertion of what I am, the fiber of my being, the core essence encased, right, within Benton, the personality, the performance, the characteristics, the biography, right? And then all of these things occurring within a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions. Everything's a business. Go out here and through assertion, aggression, and dominance, make the world your bitch, right? Grab the bull by the horns and perform in such a way as to create a being who identifies themselves not based on what they are spiritually, not based on their spiritual birthright within this delusory realm. Oh, no, no. Not after being sacrificed to Moloch's machine as a child, children sacrificed to a world of death. No, 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 no. You will perform as a slave to what pleases Moloch. And I apologize, I don't mean you, the listener. One is expected at the level of status quo and social contract in order to fit into these peer groups and to meet their expectations, their so-called, quote, worldly expectations. And then those same people will say, oh, yeah, be in the world, not of the world, because part of the story, part of the belief system that was given to many folks was a so-called, Christianity, right? Church going, doctrine, dogma, right? But anything to avoid contemplating and accepting that with the birthright comes the potential of attack and spiritual war based on the inversion and the fact that by its very nature, antithesis must set itself up in opposition to what I am. See, it has to, it has no choice, it doesn't have free will. See, now if there's a free will, and I'm seems like there is, at least in a way, contextually, oh, that's me that gets to more or less do as he pleases, right? Or as he's enslaved to do, or as he's incentivized to do. Also go out here and there's all these billions of people. Well, watch them perform. And what do most humans do? They watch that performance and they mimic it, they follow it, they imitate it. Right? Why? Why do they do that? Because when they fail to perform as expected based on the expectations of the realm, Moloch's machine having been sacrificed to a so-called pagan deity that, as far as it's concerned, whatever you are belongs to it, because that's how it trained you. After you, again, not you, the listener, after the being was sacrificed to this society. So here, take it, do with it as you see fit, society, systems of man, humankind incapable of creating and operating systems that are free of corruption. Here, and the recognition, see, that the sacrifice has to have a value, right? And Moloch ain't taking no low value sacrifice. Are you crazy? How did it become Moloch? Do you think it became Moloch taking bargain basement sacrifice? Did it work its way up some sort of ladder, corporate structure within uh, antithesis is whatever it's got going on here? I don't know, perhaps. But at this time, Moloch ain't taking no shorts. Partner. Moloch says, oh, well, these humans seem to have some understanding that their greatest value of substance, oh, well, that's the child, which may very well be in a state of spiritual perfection. See, that's the child as close to having left the womb, because that consciousness, that awareness finna come online, right? The helpless baby, well, at some point that baby gonna start forming memories, right? That baby's gonna start walking around, crawling around, talking, understanding, receiving instruction, receiving uh, ideologies, belief systems. This is who we are, this is who you are, this is what you do, right? In service of Moloch's machine, to create a graven image to uphold before Moloch and say, is this okay? And what do we see with the social media? The social media provides where everybody gets to look at everybody else's up to the moment image while simultaneously having up to the second instantaneous access to the peer group at all times. This is the spiritual war, folks. I'm describing the spiritual war. See? And in my conversations, in my observations, doing these live streams, they say, oh, it's all a distraction as far as what's going on in the world, the news cycle politically. Oh, it's all. And I'm like, hey, from what? Well, the spiritual war. Anything to keep the being from recognizing the spiritual war. Meanwhile, in the so-called truth community, that's just about the only thing I've ever found that pretty much everybody agrees on, is that this is a spiritual war between the forces of good and evil. Well, that's great. And most of the folks in this place, again, if they are what I am, possessed of Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, as much of a mockery as that is, right? The realm mocking what I am. Anything to avoid the seriousness and the reality, even within a delusory realm, or perhaps only within a delusory realm, right, of a spiritual war where what I am will be made to perform in a way that suits this world of death, to serve death, to love death, to align oneself with death. See? And make no mistake, anything short of proper alignment, mind, body, and spirit within the individual is going to end up representing service to death, service to antithesis. Well, why should death win? Why should evil carry the day? Why should wickedness prevail? See, that's that's been Benton's motivation for a long time. And it's the well-worn cliche of, oh well, the only thing required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing in the face of evil. What I say is, well, that's how you know they weren't good men, so-called, to start with, because a so-called good man would not have the option of doing nothing in the face of evil. That's what the spiritual war is. And that's what Moloch's machine has psychologically enslaved people to do, is to observe and watch the evil and the wickedness just roll on by, and to just say, well, it's the Democrats, it's the blue cities, you know. Uh, and what does that mean in the context of a spiritual war? That means the person who's like blaming everything on the Democrats, right? And vice versa. I'm not saying that the so-called other side, right? But is the other side the ones claiming to be Christians and claiming to be righteous on some level and claiming to be saved, right? Saved from what? See, until people can answer these questions, oh, what the Christian, you know what the Christian says? Oh, well, saved from myself. Well, the enemy's got you. You've been delivered into the hands of the enemy. And apologies, not you, the listener. Somebody who responds that way has clearly never even considered the spiritual war. They've never even considered their place in the spiritual war. They haven't considered how is it a spiritual war, because they've been given an ideology and a set of rules, dogma, and doctrine that says, well, God so loved the world and created this place, and he wants you to have a good life and all of these things. Heavenly Father, all the bullshit, right, that the church puts out. And what's the effect of that? So that people, while simultaneously viewing themselves as good men and good women, will just watch the train of evil just roll on through town. Just watch it happen, right? Watch that train of evil and wickedness and debauchery and decadence and calamities of all stripes. Just watch it roll right through their so-called lives in a world of death and a game of lies. Just watch it happen and say, well, there's Democrats, so what am I to do? Democrats exist, so what do I have to worry about in a spiritual war? Because I went into a building and a flawed human being who's got no skin in my game told me that I'm saved, right? Because I done checked some boxes, right? I done checked some boxes. Now I'm saved from what? From myself? Are you crazy? If all I got to worry about is being saved from me, I'm pretty sure I can handle that inside of me. Oh, that's right. The Apostle Paul said, no matter how pure the intention, that no matter how pure his heart is, he goes out and perpetuates evil. And that's the only basis for the church to tell you these lies. And the church lied to every single one of you if y'all were born up into a Christian context, and it knew it was lying to you. It knew that it was serving evil. It knew that it was serving wickedness, and it knew that it was serving Moloch's machine. And if it didn't, it damn sure ought to have. And if you think there's going to be any excuse, oh, well, we didn't know, we were ignorant, then who needs you? Because ignorance can't validate truth. We're here finding truth, folks. Anything short of manifested truth can't escape this place. See, this is the world of fraud. This is the world of lies. Anything short of 100% unadulterated, raw, manifested truth is not going to get the job done, folks. Don't kill the messenger. Or maybe do. Pretty sure I got it all figured out, Jack. What's there for Benton to be concerned about? Not much. Not much. Oh, well, they're going to put people in camps. Yeah, I was fucking terrified of that a couple of years ago. Now, who cares? What's the difference? It's a camp anyway. It's a fucking control grid anyway. It's a gulag anyway. It's a psychological prison anyway. What's the motherfucking difference? Let's get this shit on Front Street, right? And what happened during the pandemic was the spiritual war showed itself. It said, look, it's actually a spiritual battlefield. And then everybody who's what I am, there's no way, even people with the dimmest of the dim, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. As long as just the merest sliver of light was coming out into this place, right? In a delusory fashion, within delusion. Anybody with just a one little sliver of light, there's no way they didn't understand on some level that they was under maximum spiritual attack. The whole thing showed itself, and however many years later, from what I'm seeing, 99% of motherfuckers went right back to what they was doing before the pandemic, which is identifying themselves in relation to a world of death and a game of lies. And that's a violation, and that's to curse one's blessing. If one is blessed as I am, meaning what I am is the blessing. True knowledge is to understand that what I am is the blessing. So they tell me, have a blessed day. I say, already. And then sometimes I say, true knowledge is to know that what I am is the blessing. Not Benton the performer. I don't tell them this. I say, what I am is the blessing. See? But how are you going to be shown us, not you, the listener, how is a person going to be shown a spiritual war? And then, so the spiritual war comes to the surface like a Leviathan, right? Shows itself. And then for a time, maximum spiritual attack. And then the Leviathan goes back down to the depths. And everybody's like, well, that sucked. But hey, just back to consumption, back to serving corporations, right? Maybe a little less conspiracy theory material. Let's go have some babies, let's get to making some money, let's make it happen. Let's shake that money tree, serve mammon, right? Shake that money tree and serve mammon. That's what's happened, folks. And it's shameful, or it should be, but they have no shame. See? Why don't they have any shame? Because fear, guilt, and shame, that's what this place uses as weapons. Oh, you think you're gonna deviate from the status quo and not uphold these social contracts? This place gonna blast you with some fear, some guilt, and some shame, Jack. Yes, sir. And then when the being says, well, I better go back to serving that status quo, I don't like how this feels, right? Or they get on the psych meds and just keep on keeping on, right? Either way, do you think Moloch gives a fuck? Either way, just keep on crafting that beautiful graven image from the perspective of antithesis and Moloch's machine. Just keep making it prettier and more ornate and more detailed, right? And then perpetually holding it up to Moloch, saying, hey, Moloch, this is my graven image. Is it okay? And see, I don't even like talking that way. It's not mine. See, smash it. Get shed of it. And I'm not telling y'all anything that I haven't done on the good side and the bad side, depending on one's perspective. But I'm not finna come out here and serve. I'm not going to come out here and forget the spiritual war. I'm not, and I need to be reminded. See, and look, the channel at some point, nobody's going to be listening to this. I logged into my YouTube studio last night, and I don't know if this was a mistake. It said I had 0 views in the last 28 days. Well, I'm going to take it at its word. I guess nobody's watching. I don't know what these numbers on these screens actually represent. It says 5 people are listening. Who the fuck knows? Maybe that's 5 bots, and later on, YouTube's going to say, well, actually, 0 people were watching. That's was 5 bots. See, they can decide that later and take them views away. I don't fucking know. I mean, ain't nobody, is YouTube going to have a channel and with a established record of views, and then all the recent live streams, it says 0 views in the live tab on my channel? No, it's not going to do that. So for all I know, nobody's watching this shit. Who knows? And it's not shit. But me sitting here saying all of this gets my mind right. It's the warrior preparing for what? Today's battles, today's attacks. See, because they're going to come as they do every single day, because it's a spiritual war. It doesn't stop. It never stops. Right. And imagine being one of these fools who saw the Leviathan come to the surface, peeped the Leviathan, synced it. I done synced the Leviathan. And then right? And then the Leviathan goes back down into the depths, and they say, "Well, I'm glad that's over with. Let's go back to serving wickedness and evil, and supporting authoritarianism, and rooting for the government to create martial law. The government is going to do whatever the government's going to do, whether a person blames a Republican for what the government's doing, or whether the person blames a Democrat for what the government's doing. The government going to do what the government's going to do, and externally, you can't have power, listener. If you think you're going to be a spiritual warrior and you're going to end up on the correct side of this thing, please understand, outside of your energy sphere, you have no power externally in this place. None. That means the herd theory, the herd mentality, the herd hypothesis, that can't never be the answer. But what does the human want to do? What has Moloch's machine programmed the psyche and the psychology of individuals? Oh no, they want to get in a group. They want to group up. They want to click up, strength in numbers, power to the people. The people collectively have zero power in the context of a spiritual war, because it's a wholly individual experience, WHOLLY, individually, right? And the more holy, HOLY, Benton becomes, and that's an inversion, but the more uh, what was blocking the access to the what I am, the holiness of what I am, the holiest of holies, right, is where's the holiest of holies? The Bible talk about a temple and all this weird, there's a candle fucking candelabra or whatever, there's a table, there's this. You know who never gave a fuck about any of that? Benton. I scratched my head and tried to kind of listen to the story of there's this holiest of holies. Motherfuckers, the kingdom of God is within me. The holiest of holies, again, back to yesterday's title of the stream. That's a location, Jack. When asked in the motherfucking Bible, Christ himself, quoted in the Bible, in the scripture, as giving a location for the holiest of holies. And it's inside of me. I don't know what's inside of you, right? So it's actually becoming an HOLY. Oh my God, blasphemy. Oh, really? Really? Oh, you gonna bring me to doctrine and dogma? Pharisee? And I don't mean you, the listener. See, a spiritual warrior can't be dissuaded. A spiritual warrior who's committed to the war, there's nothing that you can tell him or her. You can't kill that messenger. That messenger is performing the art of war, see, and that warrior is performing based on the art of war. He or she has already placed themselves psychologically beyond the possibility of defeat. He or she's all in and committed, Jack. And especially after seeing that Leviathan. Are you crazy? Oh, but most of them just all they care about is they want to go back to Pinocchio's Pleasure Island or whatever they called it and just go have a good time. Make some live streams, making fun of some Democrats, right? Do the right thing at the status quo and the social contract, you know, serve this system, get the get the dystopian bucks, right? And enjoy themselves after meeting their obligations, right? Because somebody who aligns themselves with MAGA, American exceptionalism, and see, there's some guilt and shame there. See, they can't enjoy themselves till they put in a day's work. See, they can't kick it on an ongoing basis and relax and take care of themselves and their loved ones, because they're going to be guilty in the back of their mind. I didn't produce today. I wasn't productive. We got businesses out here. We got a nation out here. See, and such strong identification with the delusion as presented. See, well, man, we got all these systems of things, and we got to raise these kids, and we got to put food on the table. See, so nobody is out there raising their kids and putting foods out on the table without serving a corporation and serving systems of business. Nobody's doing that. That's not possible. Why do the Amish exist? Why do all these groups exist? Now, I understand they do support corporations in their own way, but they at least show that it's possible. To me, that's some version of a control group. It's the system itself. Moloch's machine is is maintaining this to show the way. Like, and that's not the way. It's to show that, well, it's at least possible to live, to not spend every waking moment virtually serving this system of death and the world of death and the game of lies, right? But these people are falling all over themselves to go serve it, falling all over themselves to go serve it. Can't wait to get up in the morning, right? Can't wait. And I'm here to tell you, it ain't going to amount to a hill of beans. It don't mean anything. The money in the bank doesn't mean, has no meaning, right? Oh, the consumption. There's no substance to that. We bought some things. We live in a certain type of house. We drive a certain type of pickup truck. Again, if you can't drive anything but a motherfucking pickup truck, you're proving that you are refusing to do anything but identify yourself at a level of humanity based on this place and how this place views things. See, if you can't be seen in anything but a pickup truck, you're proving it. You're proving which side of the spiritual war you fall on. That's what people don't seem to realize. Just that very fact alone. Somebody who lacks the courage to go their own way in life and say, well, hey, this is very important. Individually, I'm going to suffer for this or not suffer based on how I perform, the performance itself within on the battlefield of the spiritual war. See, and how does Benton know all of this? Some yokel hick from the fucking swamps of Arkansas, for fuck's sakes, right? The smartest person that sounds the dumbest. If you think this ain't the realm mocking you, if you're listening to this and you're not living it, because the realm don't give a flying fuck how many people come on here and listen to this, as long as the people listening don't act on it, as long as they don't internalize it, because internalization is where the power is. Externalization, there's no power. So yeah, listen to him all you want, says Moloch's machine, as long as all efforts and attention is focused externally. And that's the distraction. That's the idea of distraction. Oh, it's all a distraction. No, it's a bunch of people refusing to direct their energies, their focuses, and their efforts inwardly into themselves where their power is. It's people who are choosing disempowerment and just praying that ignorance is bliss. Well, guess what? If ignorance is bliss, then knowledge can't possibly be power. And where is knowledge? See, where is knowledge? It better be within you if you think you're going to access some power. Oh, but let's do what the world tells us to do. Let's do what the peer group does. Let's do, here's this cognitive dissonance while simultaneously believing that the being is in the world, not of the world. And all efforts directed externally at the level of a status quo, a social contract, and multiple peer groups that are adhered to. Do you think Moloch's machine and antithesis, they understand that if you are placing your consciousness, right? If the being, and apologies for the you pronoun, if the being is placing their consciousness and their awareness in that space, again, we're back to space and location. They have no chance of victory. Meaning, what do you mean by no chance of victory? Didn't you say, Benton, that what you are is victory and can't experience defeat? Exactly. And the free will elements tied to proper identification versus improper identification. Improper identification, see, leads to the being cannot perform properly. So when the Apostle Paul, Saul of Tarsus in the Bible says, regardless of the purity of his intention, he performs wickedly, it's because he's identified with this realm. See, it's because he either doesn't have the spark of divinity, the little light, which I suspect to be the case, or he has it, see, and he's choosing or unknowingly doesn't realize the nature of this place. And he's so strongly identified with the validity of the realm that when improperly identified, Paul's right. When improperly identified with the validity of this realm and the authority of this realm, see, and that's really the key point, the authority of this realm. Because if this realm can authoritatively cause the being to perform as if this realm is the entirety of what exists. But then ideas of, well, there's a heavenly somewhere, point in the up direction, and there's a hell somewhere. Oh, it's down there. All right. As long as the being identifies and considers that to be actual reality, no chance of victory, folks. And that's what the Apostle Paul mocking Christians in their own book, saying, hey, you're going to do wickedness anyway. So what's the difference? You better check these boxes. See, you better check these boxes so that Jesus can save you from you. Right. Meanwhile, what do the Jays say about Jesus? Because that pops up in the feed here and there. Oh, look at what they say in the Torah about, or whatever it is. I don't even know they got multiple books. The Talmud. Oh, well, look what it says in the Talmud about Jesus. Don't y'all know that that's the same motherfucking thing? All of that is the same Moloch's machine that's going to tell you, well, it's okay to be out here identified with the realness of this place. This is all that exists. And then if you check all the boxes, and if Jesus saves you from you, how the fuck I'm going to be me and I can't save me? Huh? How am I going to be out here in a valley of a shadow of death? How am I going to be out here swimming, you know, in a different analogy, and drowning, and can't save myself, right? Or can't keep myself from drowning. So I have no power whatsoever. Apparently, what that message is that, well, you don't have any power inside of yourself. It's another inversion. Your only power is to check a bunch of external boxes that you don't even have to live by. See, you don't even have to live by them. That's what Moloch's machine says. Shit, you pretty much do whatever the fuck you want, as long as you've accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Huh? Is there a location for that? Oh, externally. Oh, you mean outside of where my power is? That's where I'm saved from me. I can only be saved from me outside. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. None. But that's what I'm supposed to believe. That's the people I'm supposed to align myself with. That's who I'm supposed to associate with, is people who are refuse to develop themselves to the point to be able to figure this shit out on their own. Meanwhile, Benton's figured it out. The smartest person that sounds the dumbest. Are y'all crazy? And I don't mean you, the listener. Are they crazy? Yeah, they are. They love death. What's going to make a person crazier than loving death and aligning themselves with a world of death, game of lies, so much so that, well, yeah, we don't care what the government does, as long as we can laugh and mock and ridicule the color blue and Democrats and woke and lefty communists. As long as they exist, we're good. So I say, hey, man, I'm not calling for this, but let's go into a thought experiment where finally the right wing gets the fucking marching orders that strong authority tells them, hey, go wipe them out. What then? Just go wipe the Democrats out. And then what you going to do now? You're going to find out, well, holy shit, we needed them Democrats, because now, what we're going to have to examine what the Republicans are up to. We're going to have to reconcile all these faggots in the Republican Party. Because remember, folks, the MAGA is blaming Democrats, and that's LGBT, that's leftist communists, right? That's the trans people, that's the homosexuals. See, you ain't got to think about Trump's right-hand financial man married to a man, Besant. So you ain't got to think about him, because you're too busy blaming the Democrats. There ain't time in the day to ponder on, well, wait a minute, Trump is supposedly fixing the economy and the tariffs and make America great again. And who's his number one guy that he's turned to get all this done? A homosexual that lays in bed with a man every night. And who even knows what they're up to? I promise you, whatever they're up to is just as vile. It's just as decadent. It's just as perverted as whatever y'all might imagine that the left is up to. Maybe even worse. And that's just fully accepted. They're fully accepted. Hell, they were going to send when Biden was president, they're going to send old Mayor Pete to China as a fucking ambassador, and they realized, well, these Chinese they're not gonna let him parade his husband around, right? And then people say, oh, well, that's Democrats. Oh, is it? Because I'm watching what Trump's doing. I'm watching what Republicans is doing. You know, half of them's faggots, right? At least minimum half of them's faggots. And see, people don't have to face that, right? People don't have to face that when there's Democrats to make fun of and laugh at. See, go ahead and wipe out the Democrats, and what are you going to find? Oh, oh, 50% minimum of these Republicans are sucking cock, literally, and that's who truthers are going to align with, dick suckers. So out of the same mouth that they spout the rhetoric of the family, conservatism, Jesus, Christianity, make America great again, a day's work for a day pay. Half of them, that's the same mouth they put a penis in. And that's real talk, folks. It don't get no realer than that. It don't get no realer than that. That's why the Democrats are there, folks. They serve a function within Moloch's machine, within this delusory realm, within the context of the spiritual war. They can't be wiped out because as long as they're over there to look at and to make fun of and to observe their decadence and depravity, well, now folks don't have to consider the decadence and depravity that they have aligned themselves with. See? Again, defenders of an indefensible realm. Defenders of an indefensible realm. See? And see, this is why Benton, you don't want a Benton around. But when it's an actual spiritual war, and if people think they're on one side or the other, and if people think, well, yeah, I understand the individual spiritual battle. It's a spiritual experience individually, right? But if people are going to put themselves in some version of communal groups, you want a shamanic, right? Shamanic. You want a shamanic medicine man, weirdo, afflicted with the odd manner, tough as nails, one of the most mentally strong, focused, committed people who's ever came to this place called Benton. You want him around, but the problem is it don't feel good when he tells you to your face what you are and what you're doing. Well, that's your problem. Benton only care about truth when it comes to that. Benton got one concern when it comes to that. It's that, yeah, if you think you're going to align yourself with a political system, a man's government, and you're going to pick one of these two sides, even if it's a negative motivation of making fun of the Democrats, I'm going to say, let's just do it. Let's just do a thought experiment where finally Trump or whoever, probably JD Vance. JD Vance gives the word, hey, we're finna roll on these Democrats, right? We're finna roll on these Democrats. And what does MAGA assume? Well, we got everything we need to wipe these fools out if it ever happens, right? Okay, go wipe them out. Who's left to make fun of at the level of perversion? Oh, now we're gonna have to think about Scott Bessent, who's right now probably laying in bed with his husband, cuddling with a man, cuddling with a man. See, yeah, yeah, and managing the economy because well, you got to have a strong nation, you got to have a strong economy, richest country in the history of the world, and strutting around with our chest puffed out because this is just a absolute pinnacle of civilization, right? Boy, I guess we all won the lottery to be born in America, right? And then just don't peek behind that curtain over there. You might see Scott Bessent up to some you know he might be have his face in a pillow somewhere, might be biting a pillow somewhere. Yeah. Uh-huh. See, I was raised up like most of you folks. I was raised up very similar to most of you. I am y'all on some level. Benton is anyway. I had conversation with my own father in both of our hometown. right? And where nobody was allowed to be homosexual and would have been literally gay bashed. Literally. I don't agree with that, never have. And he told a story about how him and his buddies, people he knew, maybe on a job somewhere, probably at the truck stop. My family used to own a truck stop. Yeah, you know what? They said he said they locked this gay dude in a trailer, right? And were fucking with him, wouldn't let him out for a period of time. And and see, this is what I mean by people can't think for themselves. Because see, I understand anthropology, sociology, psychology, and all these things. So he told on himself. See, I said, how you know he was gay? Because he couldn't be openly gay because he'd have got beat up and had to probably leave town. It would have been stomp on sight everywhere the man went. Right. Well, we know that he was doing what he was doing with people, who were passively heterosexual. Right. I mean, we know that's how that works. It's called the down low. Okay. That's all going on. And my dad just he completely flummoxed him and stumped him because he realized there wasn't no way out of this thing. Oh my God, you're right. You know, and he didn't say I was right, but I just kept asking him, how do you know he was gay? Like what are you talking about? And he couldn't answer. See, because the man wasn't allowed to perform on that basis, and that was in Arkansas. Would have been, I don't know, 1970 probably. Just thinking about what age my dad would have been a couple of years before I was born, maybe like right after he graduated high school, something like that. Now, was I guess because the Deep South up until that point was historically Democrat, lest we forget. And just think about that, folks. The idea of how ridiculous and decadent and depraved and fallen as Democrats are viewed from the Republican perspective, and realize, oh, the entire Deep South was Democrat up until 1968 and maybe later. Think about that. And in fact, my home county is still Democrat. So my dad's hometown and my hometown to this day is Democrat. And it's not a big place. It's not like, oh, it's a blue city. No, the whole county's 150,000 people. Blue, voted for Kamala. Right. But so, this is around the time it's transitioning to a red state. And now Arkansas is one of the strongest red states possible. So it's like Arkansas, South Dakota, some other places. Strongest, you know, and happy to fall in line under Trump and Scott Bessent and whatever homosexuals might be serving in the government. See, you gonna throw the homosexuals out of your own church? You're gonna live based on what you think you are and what you think you believe? You actually gonna live it? You think your women are gonna let you expose and kick the homos out of your church? You think that's going to be allowed in the social media age with peer groups and everybody's going to know? What man is going to stand up in this society and say, this is our church, this is our book, and it says we can't accept these things? We can't accept adultery. We can't accept people getting divorced except under biblical conditions. We can't accept all of these sins in the Bible. Because, see, unlike most of y'all, I grew up in a church that enforced all of that. I know a lady that grew up a Jehovah's Witness. They kicked her ass out for smoking cigarettes, folks. Kicked her ass out. She's still trying to get back in. Last time I talked to her, she's from Hot Springs, Arkansas, old lady. They disfellowshipped her, turned their back on her, and would not associate with her because she was unable to stop smoking cigarettes. Think about that. And then imagine going to a Christian church with a book and under these old school notions of traditional family values and American exceptionalism and this old school, what the ancestors did. The ancestors didn't let people be openly homosexual in the town, in the county, in the church, at the job. And I'm not We know Benton's for freedom and for not hurting people. I'm making points here at the risk of somebody wandering by and hearing what I'm saying, also in a place where none of this would be uh, looked on favorably. None of what I'm saying, especially in this accent with a motherfucking. I'm in LA with an Arkansas license plate at the same time that the fucking news media is promoting this story about a whites only settlement in Arkansas. And these people don't know nothing about Arkansas. They have no idea that where I'm from in Arkansas voted for Kamala. They don't know anything about Arkansas. Zero. That's both coasts. No, absolutely nothing whatsoever about the middle part of the country. Flyover states. They don't know anything. You got people, 25-year-olds from Southern California that talk about moving to Tennessee. And I'm like, well, I think you mean Nashville because uh, Tennessee is in the bottom 10 states for median household income. I don't think, do y'all not realize you're moving to, if unless you're moving to the city limits of Nashville, you move into one of the poorest places in the entire country, who, based on my observations, was one of the places that went for the mask the least. So somebody in Southern California who supports masking and supports all of these pandemic measures probably got jabbed. Now economically, they're going to move to quote Tennessee. Are you crazy? Right? They don't know anything about the rest of the country. Nothing. Nothing. And vice versa. The middle part of the country has no fucking clue what's going on the coast. No idea other than what they're told through the news media and social media. No idea. Well, Benton knows what's going on more or less in every part of the country because he's gone there and he's seen it for himself. Oh my God, are you what? What a concept. And not because he drove a truck, folks. I went to 40 of these motherfuckers living out of a backpack, sleeping outside, in including whatever states I'd gone to, growing up or whatever. Right. But I went to a lot of states before I ever drove a truck. I think I only got about 8. Yeah, I got 8 new states, 7 new states driving a truck. That's all I got. I already had 40. I got 7 new ones. We got 47 to 48. Never made it to Vermont. Oh, well. People say, oh, well, you'll get there one day. Well, based on what? Who knows? Yeah, I will or I won't. But see, that's a human being hearing another human being saying something and just, oh, we need to placate them. We need to manage their emotions. Why? For what? You think I give a fuck if I go to Vermont or not? Yeah, it'd be nice to say I've been to 48 out of 48. Who cares? Who cares? It's a spiritual war, folks. And I love it. Give me more. Do your worst. Do your worst. Because if the army that I'm to serve in this spiritual war, if it's going to lose, well, I want the other side to have actually accomplished something. See? And that's the key to competitiveness that I don't think a lot of folks realize. And to bring it back to my old sports days, see, I was never a bad loser. I might have been a bad winner at times. At times, generally, I was a good winner, I would say, but I was never a poor loser. You know why? Because I left it all on the court. Because I was committed. I gave my maximum effort. And if you beat me and my team, you have accomplished something. Congratulations. You've accomplished something. That's competitiveness. Some say, "Oh, well, that's pride. That's arrogance." What are you going to tell a August 12th Leo with high testosterone to this day about vanity, ego, pride, and arrogance? Not much. You think I care how it sounded? Right? And what about this roommate of mine in college who wasn't a competitor because we used to go out at midnight and go play one-on-one, and that fool never beat me. See, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done whatever it took to beat that person at least one time. At least once. And what do they want to do now? Oh, well, it was this excuse, it was that excuse. Well, if it hadn't been for this, if it hadn't been for that, what are you talking about? There ain't none of that when Benton loses. It's a hey, good job, congratulations. They let me play because remember the Jehovah's Witnesses, I had to beg to do anything. I had to beg to be in the fucking band, high school band, school band. But they let me play little fucking minor league baseball, they called it, and we made it to the championship game, and we lost on a bad call, right? And so that was the excuse, and it was talked about for years, right? You know how long that bad call bothered me? That day, maybe the next day, right? And I was one of the best players on the team, of course, right? And that bad call, guess who was coming up to bat? And guess who probably had the highest batting percentage on the team? See? And guess who's probably about to win the game? See? None of that bothers me because I did everything in my power. I gave my maximum effort. See? And I knew it back then. What was I, 10 years old, 9 years? I don't know. I was a little kid. And yeah, I was sad that night. So I remember my mama could barely fucking pick me up. I'm sucking my thumb, fucking wrapped around my mom. How long you think that shit lasted? Not long. And I was a little kid. I was the smallest kid in school till about ninth grade. So, boy, I should say. Uh, but I was that young, and I didn't have nothing to say about it. I was over it halfway into the next day. I was over it because what else is there to say? I don't have there's nothing I can do about a referee making a bad. And it was clearly a bad. It wasn't even close, right? Who cares? Who cares? See, that was in me back then, and it's still in me now, right? And a lot of people have never lived life on anything approaching those levels, and that's fine. That's their choice. Right? I got my own, things I've avoided going through, right? But all of that competitiveness, all of that commitment, all of that effort, that all applies to the spiritual war, but it applies inside the being. And the psyche and the psychology is controlled to always direct the efforts outwardly. So why do you think my dad and my mom and all these people, other parents on the team, they go into the externalities around the bad call for literal years? I'm not even exaggerating. That's how big of a deal this was in our community. Because baseball, for some reason, was just this gigantic thing, right? I don't even really like baseball. It was just kind of, it was fun. It was fun, but I didn't give a shit about it overall. Who cares? But when I was doing it, of course, I'm going to be, uh, the best competitor I can be. Of course, I am. I'm going to try as hard as I can and do the best possible job that I can. Why wouldn't I? Same thing with the spiritual war, where the stakes actually are high in a way, right? But remember, I got the cheat code. The cheat code up, down, left, right, BA start is proper identification within myself based on unlocking the achievement, right? The up, down, left, right, BA start. Is that a, analogous to unlocking the achievement of true knowledge of self? See? So there's nothing left for Benton to do here except continue to be spiritually attacked every day and to properly identify. That's it. And then to just, as the truth, and as the most super intelligent force and power of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, whenever it, sees fit for old Benton to, you know, manifest whatever truths need to be manifested. Well, I'm willing and able, right? Preaching the gospel in the streets of Los Angeles at times, right? And don't, I don't want or need credit for that. But the Christians will say, oh, well, the glory goes to God. Oh, yeah. You mean the kingdom of what's inside of me? Yeah, of course. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, again, we're back to location, right? So if it's happening inside of me, how in the world do I not get credit for it? Right? What are we talking about? Now, again, we're back to this Pauline fucking Saul of Tarsus. the secular Roman J, right? So the same people who talk about the Talmud and, oh man, can you believe what the Talmud says about Jesus? That's the same people who take Saul of Tarsus's, the Roman secular J's word for the fact that he was walking the road to Damascus and Christ spoke to him directly. We're going to take his word for it. Are you crazy? I'm not. I'm not taking his word for it. Is anybody out here taking my word for baptism in the Holy Spirit and uh, Jesus choosing me? Hell no. Ain't nobody gonna take my word for that unless they're trying to get something out of me, unless they're trying to use me, unless they're trying to placate me, unless they're trying to shine me on. Ain't nobody gonna believe that shit. But you got an entire religion, supposedly the most popular one in the world, and it's much of it is based on taking the word of a Roman secular J called Saul of Tarsus, while simultaneously in their feed is the fucking uh, those black twins. I forget their name. Uh, yeah, I got videos showing up my feed about what the Talmud says about Jesus. Right? How can it be both things? That's because pretty much everybody here has already been delivered into the hands of the enemy, and the enemy is that which makes its enemy what I am. I didn't come here and make enemies. What I am doesn't make enemies. What I am doesn't create resistance. What I am doesn't create strife and struggle. The antithesis of what I am is what makes enemies. The antithesis of what I am is what does all those things. But it does it what? Through the subversion of the creative force that never lies dormant and is animating the world of death. The world of death can't animate itself. You know, this reanimator, you know, a lot of these, and this idea of the Matrix movie with the people in the pods. Well, what is that an acknowledgement of? The subversion of the creative force being used to what? To animate energetically the matrix itself, folks. That's us doing that. And I don't mean us in a group, I mean individual humans within delusion. That's what's happening. It's what's been happening. That's what's happening now. And it's going to continue to happen whether I was born or not, whether these words ever left Benton's mouth or not, whether there was a Benton in the first place. There could have never been any Benton in all of human history, and this would all still be going on. So kill the messenger all you want. It's not going to change anything. So, well, we managed to shut him the fuck up so we can go right back to serving the master that we prefer. And I don't even like putting myself in that group. I'm not in that group. But so people can go right back to serving the master of money in the vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, where every single thing that happens every moment of every day involves business and economies and financial institutions and corporations and rich people getting richer each new moment into perpetuity, which is the function of the economy. And it never fails to achieve its purpose. Now, what you gonna tell me when I can go live on the internet, open a motherfucking microphone, talk to my phone, talk to my earbuds, and I can start talking and I can look down and it's 55 fucking minutes of a righteous sermon and it hadn't stopped yet and it just keeps on preaching itself? What you gonna tell me? What do I need any of you folks for? What good are any of you? Seriously, what is your function in the context of everything that's been preached on here? What's your function? See, and again, I don't really mean the listener. I'm speaking more rhetorically, right? Because I'm not here to beat up on the people who would actually, you know, entertain some of these notions, right? It's not a call to action. You know, again, it's manifested truth. And then what do people want to do? They want to lay back on the sidelines and they want to critique the performance of manifested truth as it manifests. Oh, well, you know, his tone of voice, his accent, you know, his forcefulness, right? Motherfucker, my spirit is so strong from day one that I could try to dial this down and it would still be too much. Are you crazy? I could try to dial it down and it wouldn't make it'd still be too forceful for most people because they lack substance. See, That's to not be able to deal with forcefulness is to lack substance, right? And people can't hear it. I start talking, they want to start talking. Well, see, it's a way to not hear, and we see it in these interrogation videos. Because I love these interrogation videos because cops say, "Okay, let me break it down for you. I want to tell you, how we view this from our perspective." And all the guy's going to say is maybe 3 paragraphs. He can't get halfway through the first sentence, and the person being interviewed has to start talking because they know what's happened, right? If they were the ones that responsible, they can't hear their own deeds played back to them in the moment. That's how unrighteous, how wicked, how aligned with evil they are. They can't even stand having their own wicked deeds spoken back to them, so much so that they've, again, denial, right? Delusion. See, lies. Oh, well, the game of lies has brought them to this point. So the answer to this situation of being interrogated for some horrible crime, well, it's got to be more delusion, right? It's got to be more lies. It's got to be more lies. Well, just, and yeah, this game of lies, yeah, that's, of course, of course. And it works some of the time. But where does it get the individual in the context of a spiritual war? And I'm seeing some of these cases, man, are so horrific. If they're real, that could only be perpetrated by people who, when I talked about the little light earlier and just, that one little sliver, that one little tiny sliver of light. Well, some of these people, there's no sliver. What happens when the dimmer switch goes all the way to 0 and there's no sliver of light? Is that the biblical notion of I never knew you, right? Is that people that are so given over to loving evil and loving death and loving wickedness that no matter what happens from here on out, they're going to remain here? Oh, but that's right. You got a church and a religion founded by a secular Roman J who says, well, no, you just check these external boxes and you're saved from all of them things you've done. See, and that's what it means to be saved from oneself, is to fall to the level of no light shining such that the being can perpetrate such horrors that I'm not even going to repeat them here. If these cases are to be believed, I mean, it could just be made up, but probably it happened, right? These things happening to these sacrificed children, right? Sadly, some of the details I've allowed to go into my brain, I'd prefer that they not be there, honestly. But it's instructive because then I can ponder on, well, what is the spiritual state of a man and a mother, right, who allowed this to happen? The mother watched it happen, allowed it to happen, fostered the environment, and the man did these things to a helpless child over a period of time. And it escalates and it escalates and it escalates and it escalates and it ends in the child's death, right? Well, Moloch's well pleased. Now they have a graven image to hold up to Moloch. See, they're going right to the top of the fucking leaderboard because, again, what did I say towards the start of this? The highest possible value is supposedly the children. This idea of the children are our future, right? Spiritual perfection, innocence, helplessness, right? And that's really what we're talking about in these notions around the Bible and the meek shall inherit the earth and all of these poor in spirit and all of this and anybody that hurts these little ones, right? And all of that. It's what does the being do to those who have no defense, those who can't fend for themselves, those who can't defend themselves? Because make no mistake, folks, rules, laws, and a proper society is not here to serve me. It's not here to protect me. I'm one of the strongest motherfuckers in society, whether y'all see it or not. If it's every man for himself, right? And there's no harmony and there's no community and there's no togetherness and we don't support each other and we don't help each other, then Benton would prefer anarchy because Benton immediately goes very near the top of the pyramid. I go, zoop, right? These rules and these laws are there to keep people who are strong enough to prey upon the weak, and I would not be preying on the weak, right? Who would I be picking on and bullying? Think about it. Think about it. Probably gonna be motherfuckers close enough to my level of strength who just ain't quite as clever as I might be. And they're just not, don't have just quite as much testosterone as me. They haven't trained themselves quite as much as me to be able to withstand difficult, arduous circumstances. See, they don't have what it takes. And see, now we're back to the idea of a Mad Max, which ain't going to happen. I know it's not going to happen because I would love it. What I am would love that shit. Meanwhile, thou shalt not kill. What I am didn't come here to snuff out anybody's life. If it's representative of what I am, what? Huh? You know, to quote Sean P., my favorite rapper, rest in peace, I ain't into clapping no black folks. And that's his lyric, not mine. Unless black clapping and then I'm clapping right back at black, yo. Not me. And isn't that in some way the story of Jesus? Right? And some of that is what? To put oneself, a strong person, a man of strength, putting himself in a category of weakness and vulnerability. Because the people who are helpless and vulnerable and weak, well, they don't have no choice. See, in some ways, it's the strong choosing weakness in a way, right? So when I'm at Whole Foods and they got a door with a sign that says do not enter or exit only or whatever the fuck it says, and it's got a key card so the employees can go in, and it's just a never ending series of people walking up, seeing the sign and pulling the door anyway. Huh. So rules don't matter. Let's just everybody do what we want. So that sounds like anarchy, right? Meanwhile, okay, Benton in a vacuum, every man for himself, you know, without these spiritual war connotations, that'd be better for Benton. Yeah, let's just not even worry about rules. Everybody do whatever the fuck you want, right? And old Benton will say, well, you can do whatever you want. You can't do it near me. And they say, oh, really? I say, yeah, really. Because I'm strong enough to enforce that. That's why. Meanwhile, guess who chooses to walk his happy ass all the way around to the normal entrance? And see, what's happened is they put an Amazon counter, you know, where you can return your Amazon packages or pick up Amazon packages. They've opened one of them counters in the back there, in the back corner, so that door is where people come out from the self checkout in the little seating area where you can eat. Well, so now people they don't want to have to go all the way around to the main entrance and then loop back through all those checkouts to get to the counter. They want to go in through the outdoor, hang a right, and avoid all of that. But why did Whole Foods put the sign there? It's not for no reason. Why won't people read the sign and follow the rules? And the rules are there overall. People choosing to follow the rules is there overall to protect the weak and the vulnerable. It's not to do anything for the strong. So when I see every single day a traffic light turn yellow and 3 cars get through on the yellow, and the 4th car is like, well, he can't be the one to stop, so he's just running a red light, and every once in a while a pedestrian's wandered into the crosswalk, gets run over and killed because people don't want to follow rules. The rules there to protect the weak and the vulnerable. Well, I got places to go and things to do. And then I watch another YouTube video, and it's some cop was working a crash scene, and he made the mistake of, he needed to go to the other side of the road to go to his cruiser probably, and he forgot where he was temporarily, and he darted out into traffic, got run over and killed. And we're watching the video, and it's been like 5 or 6 years, and the city is still trying to prosecute the woman who ran the cop over. Well, we know it's because he was a cop. That's why they're trying to prosecute her. And apparently there was a plea deal at a certain point, but then they decided, okay, we've changed our mind and we've rescinded the plea deal. And you have people watching the video and in the YouTube comments, it's because they don't like police, and I get that. And they're saying, well, it's obvious from the video that it was his fault, not hers, except she's going way faster than the posted speed limit. And they only showed us like 5 frames of video. Her car's going ridiculously fast in the wrong lane because the accident has blocked. There's 2 lanes in each direction with a turn lane. So the wreck has blocked the entirety of the right lane and part of the left lane. She's going about 50 to 55 miles an hour up the middle of the entire road in the median, in the turn lane rather. And it runs, just perfectly runs, and they don't show this, but they show like the last frame they can show. Clearly she runs over and kills the rest is left to the imagination, thankfully. And it's people can't see that. Yes, she's going 50 fucking miles an hour. That's why he's not. If she had slowed down to a reasonable, prudent speed, and then she's going 20 miles an hour through around in the turn lane, and he darts across the road. Now maybe he makes it to the other side. Maybe she clips him, but he survives. See, people can't even do this math because people don't want to live in a world where rules apply to them and they have a responsibility. See, they don't want to live in that world because that's the world that protects the weak and the vulnerable. This is the world that attacks the weak and the vulnerable to the highest degree possible. Right? This is that world. So part of the Jesus thing is to be strong, stronger than anybody, strongest man. Oh, that would be the strongest man. Right? And I don't mean physical strength. I mean true power, true strength. Right? True substance. Fiber of being. And to allow oneself, more or less to deliver oneself up in the most vulnerable way possible and just to let the system do whatever it does to it. Right. But people want to play games out here of dogma, doctrine. Jesus never created a bureaucracy, folks. Jesus never said you got to do all of these things. That was Roman secular Jays came up with all of that. Oh, but we got the whoever twins, to put out a video talking about, well, can you believe how they talk about Jesus in the Talmud? Yeah, I do. How are y'all following a religion based on them same people creating a religion? Huh? Based on what Paul wrote, supposedly. And we're going to take his word that he's not what he is, that he became something other than what he previously was. It's a mockery, folks. It's a mockery. And what did they do in the story of Christ in the Bible? They executed him for sedition, mocked him as king of the Jays, and put the crown of thorns on his head. Yeah. Mockery and ridicule. And here I am watching myself be mocked and ridiculed. And part of the reason why not near as many people come to this channel, yes, some of it is that the tone has changed. There's no live chat. You know, he's talking about the Bible and Christianity, but he's slicing and dicing it. He's still talking about spiritual concept. He's preaching on Jesus. Like, it's just too. Yeah, I get it, but that's only a part of the reason why the audience is far smaller. The other part is whatever mockery and ridicule is going on that I don't even know about. See, of yours truly, right? And what does the Bible say? They said, well, what did Jesus say about all this? He said, well, the servant is not greater than the master, and you've seen what they did to me. So you're gonna be my servant or my disciple or my follower. What do you think they're gonna do to you, partner? What do you think they're gonna do to you, partner? And some of them doing it while aligning themselves with Christianity and the church. Right? Not all of them, but some of them. See. Meanwhile, what happened to Christ? Well, the spiritual or the religious establishment, Pharisees and Sadducees and whatnot, followed him around trying to catch him in some legalese. What's going to happen to Benton in a little while when he leaves this Nissan Versa and starts his day? Same thing. Spiritual attacks. Going to try to hem me up in some legalese. Going to gather an evidence for the court case. That's what this realm is. It's prosecutors and detectives spiritually gathering evidence so they can make their case legally. And what's their case? Well, antithesis only, there's only one thing to prosecute. It's to say, hey, Your Honor, in this courtroom scene from the movie Devil's Advocate, the law and the all the laws are based on this notion of all the laws and all the prophets hang on this idea that of supreme authority represented by this force of love and creation. And now here the prosecutor is, antithesis, Satan, in court saying, well, I've gathered all this evidence in a spiritual war. I've gathered all this data and I'm finna make my case. Because these little lights of theirs, this idea that they were born spiritually perfected, well, it turns out that don't matter, because I built a machine, Moloch's machine, and I did a computer simulation. And what do computer systems have, folks? Does anybody know anything about computers and networking? See, that's my background. My background ain't in truck driving. It ain't in waiting tables. It's not in running a register at a convenience store. It is, but my true vocational background, because this is what, I had somebody that I met in real life, that I met through this channel, who said, at a certain point, became so frustrated with me, I just want to know what you can do. Well, what I did for a living at a level of a trade is called information technology, right? Back in the day, many, many years ago. Okay. That's what I did. Computer networking, installing computer networks, right? Among other things. Among other things. Now I got to bragging. I know it's not even a brag, but sort of forgot the larger point I was attempting to make. Not sure it matters. And if folks can't see this or won't see it, who cares? Not my problem. That's your problem. Because again, wholly individual experience spiritually within delusion. So if your birthright is the same as my birthright, and meaning that what you are is one with that force, and if supposedly this realm has any reality to it, and now you're here, right? And I don't mean you, the listener. Now, if a being is here, and if there's some notion of a judgment, is the process of getting back to that larger force, right? Which is, again, this is only really, these concepts only exist within delusion contextually. And I'm here to tell you, it's not going to happen. And this is, we've had other people talk about ideas of, sealing in the demons or whatever. And it seems to me, although it's above my pay grade, but is it possible, right, for individuals maybe were born into a state of spiritual perfection, but to live their lives here, and it's not, again, it's their deaths, really. It's really their death. It's to become so strongly identified with death itself that they can't get back to their origination point within life. See? So they call this the game of life. This is not the game of life. This is the game of death. To get here, what I am left the game of life to come here and play games of lies. So what I am, representative of manifesting truth, came to a world of and representing the source of all life itself, is apparently within a delusion, came to this. Again, we're back to the delusions of time, space, location, place, right? And all things being brung unto my remembrance, which is to remember, oh, that's right. What I am is spiritual perfection. So much so that when I left my mother's matrix or womb and was inserted into whatever the fuck this is, this world of death, it was in a state of spiritual perfection, representing to this place, representative to delusion and antithesis, representing supreme authority. See, representing the Most High as a representative, individuated within delusion. And that's all outside of personality. That's all outside of history. It's outside of biography. It's outside of preference. Okay. And meanwhile, unlocking the achievement of true knowledge of self, when properly identified within myself, I can only perform righteously. Boy, that's a taboo. Woo! Walk into your church and tell them that and mean it. See what they say. Same thing my mom said. She said, oh, well, there was, nobody's perfect in all of this. Yeah, that's another lie. But she agreed that the child is born spiritually perfected. So which is it? How is it both things? How is nobody perfect then? Right. And then immediately, oh, well, there was Jesus and he was, you know, uh, listen to this shit. This is powerful right here. So she gave the whole spiel around, Adam introduced sin into the world. Right. I said, oh, really? I said, that's not what the story says. That's not what the book says. What? Oh, and then she said, oh, well, now you're trying to blame the woman. I said, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm telling you what the story says. Do you see how quickly the psychological control and programming kicks in? My own mom on my birthday telling me, accusing me of blaming women. I said, no, I'm telling you what the story said. Meanwhile, she forgot the part where she could have said, well, the serpent introduced the concept of sin. Right? Now, really, it must have, again, the idea of air quotes sin would have existed based on what? Antithesis. In order for there to be, otherwise the possibility of nothing could exist. And apparently that's not possible. There has to be something. There can't just be a void. It's not possible. Right? There has to be something. Has to be. There's simply no other alternatives. And we see the psychological control. It's like, okay, am I really going to have an hour-long conversation once a year because it's my birthday with my mom and just talk to her psychological control? And again, maybe I planted some seeds. Who knows? Does it matter? Probably not. What's the difference? What's the difference? But it's interesting to just watch, people try to wrestle with some of this and then and just looking for any opportunity to blame me for things. Meanwhile, if I had never been here, if I had never existed, everything would be the same, more or less. Right. It's a joke. It's a joke. Right. And so what I told her was, and again, I'm speaking based on the book. I did everything short of saying, I pulled up just short of saying it is written, woman. It is written, is it not, woman? Right? She's functioning like, it's like I'm in the desert and she's Satan on some level. Now, I'm not calling her that. I'm saying in the course of this conversation, it was representative of that. Right? Because you know what I came back with? I said, well, here's the thing is, this idea of I can't be perfect because Jesus did it for me, and now it's not possible for me to express in perfect righteousness. I said, that's based on a history. That's based on a track record. That's based on Jesus being both God and man, and therefore incapable of error or folly, meaning we can presume that every moment of his, let's just say his adult life, every moment of his adult life, however early of an age that would have been considered, that he never fell into improper identification, right? That's the standard of perfection, is to, within delusion of time, space, location, place, to every single new moment only ever be like Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, uh, properly identified with one's own true nature, if one is one with the same force that of what I am. See, and I said, well, I said, there's this thing in the Bible. See, it's called, and remember, she's preaching Jesus to me for part of this, talking about um, Jesus giving himself up to undo what Adam did, right? And I said, yeah, confess, repent, seek forgiveness, am forgiven like it never happened. So the past track record of improper identification gets wiped away, lady. And then if I'm properly identified for most of today, and then I fall into error later on, as long as I'm aware of it, whatever, if I did some wrong shit when I was improperly identified, all I got to do is confess, repent, which is a key. I have to have a true intention, and then seek forgiveness, and I'm forgiven like it never happened. This is the practice of the religion, and I hesitate to even say religion, but this is the practice at a mystical level, folks, to actually practice the spiritual concepts that the religion is supposedly based on. Now, the religion is demonic. It's of this place. It's of this world. So religion is not even, the proper context. And why would I give a flying fuck about the opinions of people who support and have no problem with evil and wickedness in the midst of the side they align themselves with politically, right? A bunch of cocksuckers, a bunch of cocksucking Republicans that they're happy to align themselves with, because that apparently is what's necessary at a status quo and a social contract in order to blame everything on Democrats. As long as there's a blue color and a Democrat to make fun of and to put the blame on as a scapegoat, not scapegoat, a scapegoat, right? Then red and Republican is free to keep sucking dick. And when you support a government, folks, as MAGA, as Trumpers, as people who go to church, you're supporting dick suckers. And most of you probably got dick suckers in your church. Well, there's no dick sucking going on in what Benton's involved with. There's no sexual acts of any kind. And when Benton has risen himself, has pulled himself up by his spiritual bootstraps within himself, mind, body, and spirit, that the rare time I even have a sexual thought nowadays, that I entertain anything other than a flash in my mind, right? If I improperly identify for a few moments, guess who's confessing out loud, not to a priest, not to a church, not to a earthly organization that's by definition corrupt? Absolutely not. Confessing out loud, right? Give it up to God and Christ and saying, yeah, this is what I done. I repent by stating my true intention to no longer engage in this activity, and also praying both in that moment and separately to be strengthened and assisted in such endeavors by the Lord Christ Jesus. And what's Benton's interest in the Lord Christ Jesus? Power. That's my interest, folks. It's not because a group of people or an organization or a book told me about it. It's because there's power in the name of Jesus. And this is a realm. You think you're going to talk to a government? You think you're going to talk to a financial system without money and power? See? Well, remember, Jesus done everything he done without money and without worldly power, because he didn't need either one. See? He is the power, right? Guess what? What Benton is the power. And when the Christ is resurrected and risen within me, and Jesus Christ is Lord of what? They love to say Christ is king and can't answer, yeah, what's he king of? King of what, sir? Better be king of your internal space. Better be the Lord ruling your house, partner. This my house, Jack. This all I got in this world is this energy. I ain't got nothing in this place but this energy sphere. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. I'm talking about the resurrection of the risen Christ. Where? Within me. The kingdom of God is within me style, folks. And that's in the book, Jack. Meanwhile, we got John 14:26. I will send the comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, and he will teach you all things and bring unto your remembrance. How do you think I know all of this? Huh? Oh, but I know how people are. Now jealousy gets involved, and well, what do I lack? Right? Other people, the pearl clutching, and why do I lack this then? Because if Benton's out here claiming it and showing it, I felt secure before because the church done patted me on the head because I'm saved, and you know I'm keeping up with the Joneses on social media. I'm putting out the graven image. Been sacrificed to Moloch, doing everything I'm supposed to do. You know, inflation, cost of living, barely able to keep my life going, and that's all by design, and it's of no importance whatsoever. Keeping the money rolling in, keeping a roof over your head, keeping a job, a bank account, investments is all dead. It's worldly. It's of this place. Oh, be in the world, not of the world. While simultaneously trying to figure out, well, we got two jobs and we're driving Uber on the weekends or whatever. Now, let's go on TikTok and figure out how can we establish some, passive sources of income. It's all dead, partner. It's a waste of motherfucking time. That's a waste of delusory time. All that leads to is you get to be comfortable. You get to enjoy yourself. You get to not be blasted with quite as much fear, guilt, and shame because at the status quo and the social contract levels, they're going to discontinue blasting you with fear, guilt, and shame quite so strongly. See? And it's going to feel like love and acceptance. Ain't no love in this world. This world of death can't provide love because it doesn't know the first thing about it. It doesn't know life and it never will. It doesn't know love and it never will. It knows death. It knows destruction. It knows depravity. It knows decadence. That's what this place knows. It doesn't know anything about life and love and creation. And that's where the mockery comes in because antithesis's notion of what all of that would be and how all of that would perform is only ever a perversion because it can't understand. It can't truly know. It can observe and use intelligence and cunning and guile, right? And subterfuge and it can observe and understand the nature of humanity and use that nature against humanity. But it will never know love. It will never know life, right? Not possible. Again, the cursing of one's blessing is to behave and perform and to relate to and to identify in relation to death. All they that hate the Most High, all they that hate supreme authority, all they that hate the source of love and creation are lovers of death, lovers of this place, lovers of their bank account, lovers of their pickup truck, lovers of their house, lovers of their status in society, lovers of branding, lovers of money itself, lovers of the graven image upheld before Moloch, to whom they belong. You either belong to Moloch, Satan, and antithesis, or you belong to supreme authority, the Most High, the source of all life, the source of all creation. And there's nothing in between. It's one or it's the other. And we in the process of finding out which one, Jack. And I like where I stand in that when that all shakes out. Old Benton ain't worried about nothing. Mm-mm. But Benton ain't got a pot to piss in. Got a car to sleep in. Oh, slept great. How many of y'all having a fitful night's sleep? Trying to figure out how to pay the bills. Trying to figure out how to deal with your family strife. Trying to deal with your struggles and strife. Meanwhile, Benton sleeping in the car. Went to sleep, slept 6 straight hours, woke up 6 hours. 2 more hours. Listen to this shit. 2 more hours of a combination of laying here peacefully and just in a relaxed fashion and dozing off and waking up and dozing off and waking up. 2 more hours to be able to move the bowels in the morning. So I need 8 hours. I need to go to bed every night around the same time and sleep 8 hours just to move my motherfucking bowels. In a world that says, well, we need you to be employed a minimum of 8 hours. Okay, so they want a third minimum of my day. But as we know, America's already following the Chinese model. They call 669, I think. Is that what it is? It's uh I even forget, or 996. You work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. That's pretty much America at this point, right? Yeah, 9 hours from 9, so 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And for some folks, it's more. Hell, when I drive a truck, it's more than that, right? So I get my 8 hours as long as I discipline myself, right? Which I don't always. I get my 8 hours sleeping in the car, and it's peaceful because when I go to bed, I don't have a care in the world. I'm not thinking about my bills. My mind is not racing. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to rob Peter to pay Paul? Right. So the bare minimum is I need 8 hours to myself and out of every 24. You think this system's going to let me have a third of my time to sleep so I can poop, so I can sleep and then lay around for 2 hours in the morning so I can move my motherfucking bowels? Because that's what it takes. And it was a glorious sight in that bowl. And I apologize for the graphic nature of what I'm speaking on here. I know a lot of people are very easily disgusted, and I do apologize for that. Right. So just to operate my own body, I need them. Then that's outside of other things that need to be done. Like what? Taking a shower, perhaps. And I'm not known for my hygiene necessarily. I got to go to the store and buy food. Well, and again, I get to go to the store and buy food. That's not a given. I'm not entitled to that. If you think you're entitled to go to a store and buy food, you're crazy. There's no entitlement to that. That's what Americans expect. You're not entitled to that. And I suspect that there's a pretty good chance that that's not going to be there at some point in many folks' lives. And remember, we already had a whole week during the pandemic of no meat section in the grocery store. And don't tell me, oh, well, not where I live, motherfucker. I was driving a truck. I seen it with my own eyes, Jack. You're not going to tell me something that I saw with my own eyes. Oh, well, not where I live. Bullshit. You got your own cattle, right? You got your own local barter system. I'm talking about your grocery store, partner. You ever hauled a load of meat in a motherfucking, you ever went to a meat processing plant with an empty trailer, refrigerated trailer, and backed it up to a dock and they loaded that whole motherfucker with beef, and then you drove that shit 1,000 miles to a facility in Philadelphia where they unloaded it, and then they put it on the smaller trucks and it went into stores in the area? I have. What are you going to tell me about it? Now, some of you've done this, most of you haven't. But you're going to tell me out of denial and delusion, oh, well, no, not where I live. Yes, where you live. One whole week, if you went to the grocery store, there weren't no meat section. And I know because I seen it. So this idea that we're just entitled to go to the grocery store and buy food, that's a privilege, whether folks want to see it or not, right? That's the way things are. And my solution is for individuals to do better, meaning Benton is prepared mind, body, and spirit for the day that he might not be able to get his eggs. Yeah, I'm in some way addicted to these eggs, sure, egg yolks. But if you think I'm not prepared for the day where that may not be an option, and then, oh, well, if you just homestead and have your own chickens, motherfucker, somebody can push a button and your homestead's gone, Jack. Your chicken's dead. Your fucking, all your shit's burnt down. right? And you're in a camp somewhere because a motherfucker pushed a button and flipped a switch somewhere. So yeah. Oh well, you're gonna solve Benton's problems around eggs and saying, well, look at him in a city. If this fool would have a homestead, yeah, that shit could be. Snap your fingers, that's gone, Jack. You snap your fingers and that shit's gone. So why wouldn't I go to the grocery store for my eggs? See, and in fact, my ability to go to the store and buy eggs might last longer than your chickens, than your access to chickens on your own land. Because who is the system going to see as a greater threat? Right. Depending on what it's trying to accomplish. Is it going to be Benton, uh, you know, getting enough access to enough credits to go buy the eggs if they're on the shelf? Or is it going to be you with your chickens? You know, uh, indoctrinating your own children instead of letting the system indoctrinate them on your homestead. Right. I mean, have we really thought this through? Because how can the answer for Benton, and meanwhile, Benton is prepared for the no egg days. Are you prepared for the no egg days? Are you prepared for the no garden days and you don't have a backyard anymore? And I'm not wishing that upon anybody. I'm talking about things that may very well come to pass here. See? And it's not to scare anybody. It's to point out, it's really to counteract a lot of the arguments that will be made against what I am asserting, which it doesn't even matter, really. Probably it's more pent up, stagnated energies that I'm working myself up into a tizzy to, let some of this stuff escape. Further healing, by the way, further healing. And boy, you don't want, just like my mama is happy to, uh, parrot back these spiritual, the Christian dogma and doctrine. I asked her, I said, where's the acknowledgement of this great healing? Right. And see, she knows, she's talked to me enough. She follows my channel enough to know that I've healed up to some extent from these chronic illnesses. She ain't dumb. She played dumb. I said, oh, I didn't realize that you were better. I said, yeah, I'm mostly recovered. I don't know that I'll ever be 100%, but I'm like 85% recovered. And, she had said, well, you sound different. I said, yeah, why do you think I sound different? You um, it's people play dumb, right? People love to play dumb, but why? I just asked her point blank, why is there no acknowledgement of this great healing that's occurred? Right. Meanwhile, she continues to go to doctors and get medicated. Right. So who's the one living righteously and who's the one living based on a world of death and a game of lies? See, who's living victory and who's living defeat in a world of defeat? See, in a world that's maintained at a level of defeat and collapse. When you talk about lawlessness, economic factors, economic collapse, cities in collapse, cities in ruin. That's society being maintained at a level of collapse and death, animated death, zombie, animated death zombies, masquerading as the way, the truth, and the life, right? Worship consumerism. This is your God, money. Masquerading in a ghoulish fashion as the real thing. Oh, the real thing? You mean Coca-Cola, the strongest brand that will probably ever exist? Right? Because it ain't Jesus. That's the strongest brand that will ever exist. Not in the minds of these humans. Not after being sacrificed to Moloch. Humanity's what's purported to be humanity's greatest resource and value, the child, the innocent, helpless child sacrificed to this world of death, inserted into a game of lies. Their parents inserted into it, lied to their whole lives, right? Upholding a status quo of lies, upholding a social contract of lies, right? Back to the example of rules, from the Whole Foods example, choosing to walk all the way around. Well, what happens when Benton forgets himself and leaves by that door? What's on the other side of that door, folks? That locked door with the sign on it that says do not enter or exit only or whatever it says. Might say both. I don't know. I don't remember. It's got a key card thing on it, where the employee can swipe their badge or whatever. It's locked on purpose. So what do you think happens? Somebody who doesn't want to walk all the way around stands there and waits for somebody to come out. Now, what Benton's going to do next time is he's just going to go out the main entrance. Because what Benton does is he sees this, because he's observant of his environment. He knows nobody's behind him. So I'm not slamming the door in somebody's face. I open the door just enough to get my body out, and then I catch the door and just shut that motherfucker. So much so that somebody that works there was that outdoor seating was basically like, wow, because now the lady who thought she was going to break the rules and go in through the outdoor can't do it. Now, what's she going to do? Wait? Because she probably wasn't waiting there. She was probably pretending to do other things, then surreptitiously sees that somebody's about to exit and then times it to where she just happens to be. Meanwhile, I'm trying to leave, right? Why are there rule breakers trying to come in when I'm, if we had a proper society, wouldn't the person let me get the motherfucking door open before they're right on top of me? See? Because if I had opened the door all the way, see what I'm saying? But then what's funny is after it happened, it's the reaction of the people. I'm the one who's done something wrong. Oh, you mean the person who followed the rules and walked all the way around like they're supposed to? Right? And then, and what do people, what's the big deal? The big deal is that I would prefer in a vacuum, if I'm going to be selfish like everybody else, I'd prefer no rules. That's what would be better for me. But I understand the rules generally, although not necessarily with respect to the Whole Foods, but generally speaking, rules and laws in society are there to protect the weakest and most vulnerable. And I'm one of the strongest. The rules are not there to protect me. They're to protect me from preying on the weak if I had such a notion to do so. That's why they're there, is to provide the incentive that, well, maybe don't bully and steal from and prey upon the weak, which I wouldn't do anyway. Right. But that's why the rules and the laws exist in the first place. It's not for me. It's not for my benefit on those levels. But then, like, who gets blamed as the problem? We don't blame the problem on the person who's flouting the rules. See, like proper society would. I didn't shut the door and then look at that woman and say, "Woman, what are you doing? The entrance is over there. I know you know this. And then if you don't, this sign says do not enter." Right. And in a previous time, that probably would have been possible. Not now. And the gasp in horror, can you believe that this person shut this door to prevent the rule breaking? And then I just gave a really small speech about, I said, why even have rules in the first place? Now, again, I have this way of saying it rhetorically where I'm not confronting the person. I'm like walking away and just sort of saying this, just giving it up to the heavens or whatever. But it's like, you know, because I can deal with rules and I can deal with no rules. What I am having problems with is this mishmash miasma of, well, we have rules, but then sometimes you don't follow the rules and other times I can't tell the difference with my undiagnosed fake autism. I don't know when I'm expected to follow the rules and when I'm expected to let people break the rules. I can't tell the difference. All I know is that door locks itself when it shuts for a reason, and somebody for a reason put a sign on the door. And people don't just willy-nilly install magnetic locks and signs on the doors. It's not like somebody pulled out a sheet of notebook paper and just scribbled "do not enter." I mean, this is a fucking sign affixed to the door. And technology that they paid for to keep people from going in that door. And integrity is where, yeah, I might prefer to see if the door pops open. I might prefer to catch it before it closes and sneak on through. But my integrity and my principles say, well, walk your happy ass around, partner, and maneuver your way through all of those people checking out because the store's busy. to finally physically get to the back corner to do your business, right? With integrity and honor. But then it's going to be implied that I'm lacking integrity and honor by not allowing the person to break the rules. Because here's the same thing, folks. See, people don't realize this. I'll do this in any scenario, meaning when I had my storage in Dallas, I had my storage. There were times when I'd get there early in the morning and I'd pull up to put my number in, and guess what would happen? Immediately somebody would fall in behind me, but they'd been waiting. See, so I'd pull up there, somebody waiting. So I'd stop because I already know it's some bullshit. I say they're just sitting there and they're waiting for somebody to come punch your number in. And then when the door opens, they're going to follow in behind me. You know what I did? I seen what they were going to do, and I just held back and waited. And now they're waiting on me. See, and I just got out of the car and walked over to him. I said, "Listen, man, I'm not letting you in that gate." So the same person, those two people, one of which got the door closed in their face, the other one who gasped in horror. What if they had their valuables in a storage locker in a self-storage, and there's the person is there waiting to go drill the locks on their unit and steal their shit, except Benton was the one who came up with the code and doesn't give a fuck that they forgot their code. I said, well, I guess you're gonna have to wait till that office opens and get your code, because I'm not falling for this bullshit. Maybe they did have a storage locker there. Maybe they're on the up and up. I don't fucking know. I have no idea. All I know is I'm there with my code and my key to my lock, right? The fact that they're not prepared has nothing to do with me. I don't let them in. Now, if somebody else lets them in, I don't control that. See? And who's inconvenienced? I'm inconvenienced because now what am I going to do? I got to drive around the block or whatever and hope that they're gone when I come back. See? Now I'm inconvenienced based on what? Principles, my code. So it's the same person behaves the same. The same person doesn't say, okay, well, I'm just going to let them in through the outdoor. That's the same person who's going to let somebody into the storage to steal your shit, right? But I have no way of conveying this to people in the moment. All I know is I'm righteous in that moment, and they're not. They're unrighteous in that moment. I'm righteous, and the expectation is that I'm going to perform unrighteously at the status quo and the social contract. No, I will not. No, I will not. And if you think I'm not describing a motherfucker who would be the best player on your team, you're crazy. Thanks for watching. Bye.